Hello. So can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
So my name's Matt, and I own Maude Coffee Roasters. We're a small independent coffee roastery based in Leeds, and yeah, we try make really tasty coffee.
So we're going to get into the company. Hello. We're going to get into the company shortly, but can you tell us a bit more about your background, how you got into coffee, and how you got into the industry?
So, God, I've nearly been in coffee almost a decade, which is weird. It's like 8-9 years now. And yeah, I kind of just almost fell into the industry. So I started working at a local cafe where I used to live in Sheffield and just got addicted. I mean, it's an awesome industry to be in. The people are ace, and yeah, it's just been really cool and really interesting.
So how did you first learn about good coffee? You mentioned that cafe that you started off in. Was that where they taught you kind of the basics?
Yeah, so I was actually really lucky compared to a lot of people in the coffee industry in that I started in a specialty coffee shop. So I started in a shop that really cared about their coffee, cared about where it came from, and they taught me a lot. I mean, it was a massive learning curve, learning about where coffee comes from and how to prepare it in a really meticulous manner. So I was lucky in that sense in that I started in that side of the industry rather than in the commercial side of the industry.
So why do you think it's so
echoey?
I know. Should I move? Are we all good? So why do you think coffee, specialty coffee in particular, is such a massive industry? Like, obviously it tastes amazing, but there's got to be more than that.
Yeah, I mean, coffee in general is a massive industry. I think coffee in total is like, what, the second largest commodity in the world?
Yeah, behind oil.
Yeah, it's huge. And, I mean, over the past 15, 20 years, specialty coffee now consumes about 50% of the industry, I think it is now, which is insane to think about, considering that the coffee that we certainly source is, I mean, it's 2% of the highest quality coffee in the world. So we're taking that 2%, and that 2% owns 50% of the industry across the world, which is mad.
What's the supply called as well? What's the supply called that you use? I can't remember.
So we have a green buyer called Belco, but everything's direct traded. So we trade directly with the farmers. So everything that we buy comes directly from the farms. We deal with the farmers directly. And yeah, we try to source that way just because it means that we're giving more back to them rather than buying it off market staples where it's just kind of, you're buying coffee at a price from some unknown resource.
So it's direct from the farmers themselves?
Yeah, we just get more traceability. Like, we can give you exact geo coordinates of where it comes from and that kind of stuff. Like, we know the varietals, we know the altitudes, like, we get everything from it.
So Leeds, and this is where I might get kind of a lot of negative comments, but Leeds is probably a bit behind, and the UK in most parts is maybe a bit behind a lot of parts in the world, like Berlin or Melbourne, for example. They're obviously like heading the coffee, specialty coffee stuff.
I would actually say we're ahead of Berlin.
Really?
Yeah, Berlin doesn't really have much. Like, Berlin's cool. It has some specialty coffee, but not loads.
I think the Barn's repping quite heavily there, isn't it?
Yeah. Barnes reps pretty heavily. But like, yeah, when you compare it to somewhere like Melbourne, like, there is no Starbucks, Costa, like, there's no commodity coffee in such a sense. Like, they still have instant, but it's a very, very low percentage. I think specialty accounts for 95% of their entire industry.
Which is so high. So
it's insane.
No instant coffees really as such. There's no Nescafes?
Yeah, literally, none of that exists. Like, a friend of mine owns a roastery out there, and they reckon that a new specialty cafe opens every week in both Melbourne and Sydney. So it's like, there's thousands, like absolutely thousands. Like, you can't go anywhere without there being an independent coffee shop, just because they're really into it.
Yeah, my brother's just moved out there, and he didn't really like coffee that much before, but now he's having to get into it really, because there's only solid coffee shops that serve really good coffee.
Yeah.
So I think he's trying to make a point of getting into it because he hasn't really got a choice.
Yeah. You're kind of forced into it out there because it's just like, yeah, coffee.
When we first started talking about coffee, you were very quick to mention that it's not good versus bad coffee. It's more about commercial versus specialty coffee.
I mean, coffee's coffee. Like, everyone loves coffee.
I guess the problem is that it's, wine has it to a certain extent where you have wine snobs where there's good wine versus bad wine, maybe. And, I mean, how do you avoid kind of getting into that conversation? Obviously, there's obviously a place for commercial coffee, because the people who drink commercial coffee aren't maybe as interested in coffee as specialty coffee, maybe?
I don't know. Like, I'd like to think we're not snobby, but there's always going to be an element of that. There's always going to be someone that thinks you're a bit of a snob. Yeah. Like, we just take it more seriously than other people. And we love it. Like, it's more a passion thing. Like, we're really passionate about where our coffee comes from and what we do. So I'd like to think that we're not quite on the level of the wine industry yet. No. We might end up there, I don't know. Like, you never know. Like, there are some people that take it a little bit too seriously, but hopefully we're not that snobby, I think.
I think they serve two different purposes, though, surely. So, like, commercial coffee, particularly like freeze-dried Nescafe, is going to be appealing to maybe a different consumer than someone who wants to buy a bag of, the £20 bag of specialty coffee.
Yeah, like, the demographic is completely different. Like, we are definitely not the convenience brand. Yeah. Like, only selling whole bean coffee to people. Like, you have to put a lot of effort in to make our coffee. Like, it's not going to taste amazing just by plopping it in a cup. Yeah. It doesn't work that way. Whereas, like, the commodity versions, the Nescafe, Dow Egberts, like, it's convenience. Like, and it was always branded as a convenience, like in the 50s and whatever, when they really kicked off. Like, it was a new style of coffee that just, it was all about the fact that it was straight away, it was quick, you didn't have to think about it, and that's what people liked. Whereas you have to think about what we do. So it's completely different demographics.
Do you think that perception of commercial coffee has affected like your efforts to sell specialty coffee?
I actually think like commodity coffee is like the lesser of two evils. It's like they are the people that introduce people to coffee as a whole. It's like without someone like Starbucks, someone like me and my business couldn't exist. Because it's like they introduce people to coffee, and then we try educate and we try and spread our passion for good coffee or better coffee. And like without someone like Starbucks and Costa, like I couldn't exist. My passion for coffee wouldn't work because I'd just be shouting to people that didn't care about coffee at all. Whereas they at least have people that care about coffee. They're the people that make it easy and introduce people to coffee. And then we come along, the specialty industry, and are like, oh, hey, why don't you try this? Because there's a story behind it. There's something different.
I was wondering when you were going to mention the S word, which it's usually...
Story.
Starbucks.
Story time.
I'm having some real beef with this speaker. It's really not going down well. Is that really loud? Is everyone getting deafened by the sound of this microwave? Are we all right? Microwave? It's been such a fucking long week. And it's only Tuesday.
Well, we did have to carry that cart up earlier. So
yeah, what you missed before this is us carting that cold brew equipment across Leeds with loads of chavs just going, what a fucking brew, mate, and all this kind of shit.
Is that beer, pal?
I was like, it's not even beer. And then he's like, what is it? It's coffee. And I was like, forget about it. It doesn't matter. So yeah, microwaves. Not a good thing. So Starbucks, they do some of your hard work for you in the sense that they get people interested in coffee, and then you can do the harder sell and explain why your coffee is maybe a nicer taste than Starbucks.
Yeah, massively. Like, yeah, I don't agree with what they do. I don't agree with their ethics, and I don't necessarily think their coffee's good, but that's my personal opinion. But them as an industry staple, they've introduced more people to the world of coffee than anyone else. So it's like what they've achieved is incredible, and like hats off to them. Like, yeah, it's incredible what they've done, and they've brought amazing things to billions of people around the world. Like, hats off. That's fucking cool.
Yeah.
But I don't agree with what they do. I don't agree with their coffee. Like, I don't agree with their ethics. But that's a whole other story.
Yeah,
and then someone like me comes along and it's like, yeah, this is really awesome coffee. And Humberto grew this, and he's ace, and he's a really lovely man that's been growing coffee for nearly 60 years. So
I guess what you said there in terms of like it's easy to sell something if you've got like obviously you're not trying to sell something off the back of a good story. You care more about the story than the actual sales pitch. Where Starbucks maybe are trying to promote the story of it coming from a man who's made coffee for 60 years, and it's fair trade, and that's all good. I'm trying not to get into a big war of what fair. It's going down a route that I don't think you want to go down.
Yeah, let's not go down the war route.
But like, there's ethical challenges, isn't there? So I mean, I guess what you're trying to say is like you care a lot about the journey from the farmer to.
Yeah, like we really care about where the coffee comes from and the people that grow it, and it's just more of a respect thing. Like, we know all the farmers that grow our coffee, and we talk to all of our farmers, and they put in hundreds and hundreds and thousands of hours of work to make what we do possible, and it's a humble offering almost to them.
Yeah.
And it's just a saying thank you back to them for spending hours and hours on end, and like blood, sweat and tears go into making a cup of coffee, and that's like, that has to be told. You have to appreciate the effort that people go to, like.
And I guess that's part of Maude, that's what you care about. And
yeah.
I think when we first started chatting, you said it's your job really to worry about the altitude it's grown at, or a lot of the technical details of why it's good coffee.
Yeah, the techie stuff, like how to roast coffee and how to make coffee, like that's for someone like me to worry about, because I'm a trained barista. Like, we worry about the techie stuff so that you don't necessarily have to. Like, we're just sourcing the best possible coffee we can. We're roasting it how we think it should be roasted. We deal with all the techie side of it, and then it's just we want to bring something amazing back to other people. We want to share their story and share what they're doing.
But the consumer doesn't really need to care too much. If they want to geek out, they can.
If you want to geek out about coffee, I'll geek out about coffee. Like, we'll chat for hours. But it's not necessary. You don't need it.
Yeah.
So it's not about that.
We're going to move on in a second. Obviously, we've got this live feed thing going on here. Feel free to send a bit of abuse, but not too much in. We usually hide it, but I think it's more interesting to see it scrolling past, and maybe there'll be some good questions that come up at the end. We're going to do a Q&A shortly too. So competitions, briefly touch on them before we go on to the story of Maude, really. But you attended the UK Barista Championship in February, was it?
I did indeed.
And how did that come about? How did you get into competitions? How do you start competing in competitions like that?
I think, when did I first compete? I started competing maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and it was more of a personal thing where I wanted to push what I was doing and push my own knowledge, and it was just like a huge learning curve. I think the first time I competed, I came like second to last in the country, did absolutely horrendously, but I learned very, very quickly, and it was just a real kick up the arse to learn more, and it forces you to change your perspective, and it forces you to consider everything that you know, throw it out the window and start again. It makes you question things, which I think is really good, because you never get better if you don't question what you're doing.
So how does it work? How does the competition aspect work?
So there's multiple competitions. The one that I entered, you have 15 minutes to make 12 drinks in front of 7 judges. So they judge you on a lot of different technical aspects, but then it's also judged on sensory things like taste and flavor and that kind of stuff. So there's 2 sides of it, really. So there's the tech side, and then there's also the flavor-driven side of it as well. So it's a bit of both. Okay,
let's talk about Maude. How did Maude start?
So Maude was kind of my brainchild for maybe 2 or 3 years prior to opening. So I'd worked in multiple cafes. I worked in a cafe in Sheffield, and then I moved back over to Leeds and worked at a cafe in Leeds. And Maude was kind of just like a next step for me. It was something that I thought would be cool and interesting, and it was more of a self-progression thing. So I've been a technician and a coffee tech for 5-6 years now, so
it was something different. It was not just making coffee every day, and it wasn't fixing machines every day. It was something new, exciting, and interesting, and it was a different step in a new direction.
So you mentioned that you don't just care about making the coffee, you care about the people you sell your coffee to, make it correctly. You do a lot of training.
Yeah, loads of training and all sorts of stuff, really. But yeah, it's, at the end of the day, whatever I'm doing in the coffee industry, it's more... The thing that I fell in love with was the service. It was the people. It was introducing new people and that social interaction with people to something that I was passionate about.
Yeah.
Whether they understood it or not, it didn't matter. It was a personal thing and a thing of giving something to someone else and giving something back to other people.
Yeah. Starting a roastery can't be that easy in terms of obviously you have to buy I've seen your roaster. It's quite large.
It's pretty big, yeah.
But I think the fact is that some small roasteries, they can have roasters that are a quarter of the size of that coffee table, or you can do it in very small amounts if you want to. But yours is pretty industrial.
Yeah, we didn't want to go small. It was go hard or go home.
So you have to buy the roaster. You've also got some other bits and bobs. Is that the main upfront cost, or is there more to it? Like what is involved in setting up a roastery?
The upfront cost was obviously part of it, and that was fine. That was the easy part.
You've got nice socks, by the way, Ben says.
I've got what? Nice socks?
Yeah, nice socks.
Thanks.
There you
go. They're happy socks, if anyone's interested. Anyway.
I knew this was a bad idea.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, I'm
cool.
That's enough.
Sorry. So, yeah, obviously there is an upfront cost. There's things involved in buying certain bits of equipment, all that kind of stuff. That's the easy bit. It's just it's a checkbox. You need this, this, and this. So you buy this, this, and this. But then it's the finding the right space. Finding a space for us to roast in was incredibly hard. Yeah. And it took us a few months to find something that was suitable. We luckily, we landed on the archway that we were in, and it was great at the time. So we just jumped at it and got started. But it was like 4 grueling months of lots of work.
How long have you been there for in the archways now?
We moved in the 1st of November 2014.
So it's basically like just past the School of Ballet, I think, the Royal whatever.
Yeah, we're kind of near the Northern School of Ballet.
Northern School of Ballet, so and there's just 2 arches that you consume. One's your roastery area, and the other one is like an area where you do a lot of your training. Is that right?
Yeah, training and just QC, like quality control kind of stuff, is what we do in the other one.
It's really nice. Like you've made an effort to make the training side really like cozy and nice for people to want, like really sit down and be educated, I guess.
We open casually as well. Like the door's open, come in, have a coffee.
Yeah, I went. That's why I first came and met you. Actually, I just wanted to buy a bag of Maude Coffee, and I thought I'd come and see what the deal was. It's not too far out of town. It's definitely worth a look.
Yeah, it's a 5-minute walk from the bus station. So yeah, not too far.
So Maude, why is there a need for Maude in Leeds?
Well, it's not. It's not just Leeds. Like we ship all over the world. We ship coffee everywhere. It doesn't really matter where the coffee goes. It's like we're in Leeds because I'm in Leeds and it was convenient to be in Leeds. Yep. So it's like there's other great roasteries in Leeds, but there's also other great roasteries in this country. And it's just we wanted to share our take on great coffee. So it's not necessarily there's a need for it in Leeds, but I think there's a need for more amazing coffee in the world. So it's like you can't have more better coffee. Yeah. So, and we ship all over the world. We ship as far as Malaysia fairly regularly. So, yeah, it's not just a Leeds thing.
So, apart from the training, you do the training, you do the roasting. Like, what's a typical day look like? So, like, what's your week looking like this week?
My week's chaos at the minute.
Apart from, I guess,
which it quite regularly is. Yeah, this week we're doing Leeds Feast at the weekend, so we'll be at North Brewing Co. serving coffee cocktails. Yeah. So if anyone's around, come for a cocktail. They're pretty tasty. But yeah, we do all sorts. So we install machinery as well. We supply coffee machines. We supply coffee. So typical weeks change all the time. Like 1 week we'll be in Manchester installing a coffee machine. The next week we might be down in, we were in Southend-on-Sea a few weeks ago installing a coffee roaster for someone. So it's all over the place. We always roast 1 day a week. So the same day we roast and we ship. But yeah, the rest of the days can be all over the place, so depends what's going down.
You said that specialty coffee, when we were talking, you said it didn't have to stay small. Like, I think there's a kind of perception of small, independent means small or specialty means small, but you've said that you want to scale more. Do you want to try and do a lot larger quantities in terms of roast? I know you're looking at bigger roasting machines and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get more. It'd be nice to do more coffee. That'd be awesome. I mean, a friend of mine's got a roastery in Stafford which does more coffee than you could fit in this room every week, which is kind of scary. They do 10 metric tons. I don't know if you've ever seen what a metric ton of coffee looks like, but it's a lot. You buy in the bags usually, and how big is that bag? A bag's 70 kilos, so they do 1,400 sacks of that.
Yeah, that's a beast.
Yeah, they do a lot of coffee. It's scary, the quantities that they do. And they're a specialty coffee roaster. There's 2 guys that roast all of that coffee, which is insane.
Do they do that every day of the week? Every day of the week.
They roast 5 days a week, and it's like, wow, that's insane.
Sorry, I keep seeing.
What's going on?
Decaf.
Thanks, North Brew Co.
There you go.
Yes, there will definitely be funky socks. I can guarantee that.
Do you do decaf?
We do decaf. We do really nice decaf, believe it or not.
There you go.
Yeah.
Keep your questions coming. It's all good distraction. How are you part of the Indie Food Festival? You had the event at the weekend at Cafe 164, didn't you?
Yeah, we were part of the Leeds Coffee Social. It was the first year that we've done it, and it was interesting. There was us and 5 other roasters there, I think.
Is that the bottom floor of Monroe House, wasn't it?
Yeah, bottom floor of Monroe House. We took that over, invaded it.
So we'll talk a bit more about Maude Hedgerow House. So you've just installed a cold brew machine. So in case you haven't seen it yet, we've got this stuff on tap, which is crack, if I'm being honest with you.
It is practically crack.
I've had about 5 coffees today already, and I'm starting to get the shakes. So but it is amazing.
Just power through it.
I am doing it. It's mentioning microwaves and everything. It's terrible. You're going to do this basically with espresso martini. So you're going to put vodka in this.
Yeah, so that's basically cold brew coffee, and we keg it like you would beer. We fill it full of gas so it comes out like beer. It even tastes a bit like beer. It kind of tastes like a sour version of Guinness.
It's very stouty when you have the first sip.
And then, we're chucking a load of vodka in it and kegging it, and we're going to have martinis on tap.
I think that's
all the
incredibly
martinis
lethal.
You can drink.
I told a friend about this, and he said the only good thing about espresso martinis is the time it takes to make them, because it stops you getting so drunk. But if it's on tap...
Think again.
Yeah, if it's on tap, you're going to be struggling. I mean, percentage-wise, 12 to 14%, something like that?
Yeah, probably 12 to 14% in the glass.
You probably want to throttle that, because you get absolutely nailed after 3 or 4.
You would. Yeah, 3 or 4 of them, and you're on another world.
There you go. What's next for the coffee industry?
Ooh, tough question. Oh, there's so many avenues that it could go down. A friend of mine's actually just started doing instant specialty coffee, which is super interesting.
So how do you achieve the quality of good specialty coffee, but in a dry, frozen way? I don't understand how you could...
I don't want to bore you with the process.
It
would take me so long to explain how they do it. But they're basically selling like little test tubes of instant coffee, but it's like the kind of coffee that we sell, but instant, and it's fucking awesome.
Can you buy it now? Is it on sale now?
Yeah, they're based in San Francisco, so it's really expensive to buy over here. We've actually got some coming at the minute. It's really awesome. They've done some with our coffee as well, so that'll be available soon. And it's even going to space, which is awesome. Yeah, SpaceX have just invested like $100,000 in his company to just be like, yeah, we want your coffee in space when we go to Mars.
That's amazing.
So they're just like making loads of instant coffee and sending it to Mars. That's ace.
So back to Hedgerow.
Yeah, back to Hedgerow.
I keep losing track. This is the worst.
Yeah, let's try not lose track.
Coffee in space, that's good. So you fitted a cold brew machine in Hedgerow?
Yeah, so they now have that cold brew on tap in the beer hall. So yeah, you can get nitro cold brew coffee in there.
Can you just use that in cocktails as it is then, if you want to?
Yeah, so I mean, you can use that as an ingredient in a cocktail, and we're working with Mike, who's one of the assistant managers, on different cocktail recipes. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, there'll be more revealed about that, and there'll be more on the bar. So you'll see in the next couple of weeks some developments. But the cold brew, as it stands, is available now.
Was that not a bit of a eureka moment when you put it in a barrel with nitrous oxide and it came out really nice and frothy?
Yeah, well, it was more of a, shit, it works. Because we've seen a few people do it. Like, there's a couple of companies in America that do it, and that's about it. So there's like, you go to do something like that, and no one knows anything about it. It's like, how on earth do you make this happen? And then there's just these guys in America called Stumptown with it, and you just like, what? How does this work? How do we make this happen? And then, we just kind of chucked it in a barrel one day and ran some gas through it and hoped for the best. And then,
because before then you were bottling it up still. You were still bottling the
I mean,
cold
we've
brew.
been bottling the still cold brew for over a year now. And that's awesome in cocktails as well as another ingredient. But we've been doing that for quite a while. And then the nitro thing was kind of just like a next step and something else we could do. We just kind of hope for the best, crossed our legs and fingers and arms and everything, and it just worked. We were just like, wow, I'm really shocked that this actually works.
You mentioned you've got another one as well, not just the one that you made, the tea kind of gin one. What was that?
Yeah, so there's this thing called cascara, which we get a lot of, which is it's the cherries that coffee's grown in. So it's not the actual coffee seeds themselves, it's the cherries that surround the seed as they grow. And our farmers will separate the cherries off and they'll dry them out for us. And you can actually use it as a tea. It's really nice as a hot tea. But we've been brewing that, cooling it down, and using it in almost like a Negroni. So we've been using it with gin, Campari, and that kind of stuff. But then you can also carbonate it. So we're working on carbonate it in the kegs as well. So it'll be carbonated on tap, which is awesome.
Have you got that out yet? Is it anywhere?
It's not out yet. Hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have that in cans soon as well. And potentially martinis in cans.
Danger.
I mean, it's endless. It's just like an endless version of danger when you get into the alcohol side of it.
I'm just trying. Have you got any more other kind of experiments that you're working on at the moment, or?
Experiments we're working on.
Or are those the two
I think
main ones?
just the cold brew's like kind of taken over our lives at the minute.
Yeah.
We've got some awesome coffees coming, some really interesting coffees coming over, which should be here for summer actually. We've actually got 4 coffees from the same farm that were picked over the same 4 days, but they're processed in 4 different ways, so they all taste completely different.
Yeah.
It's the exact same cherries from the exact 4 days, but then they've separated it off into 4 lots and processed it different ways, and they all taste completely different. Like, one of them tastes like pineapples, like exactly like drinking pineapple juice, which is weird. And then the other one's just like really dark chocolate and cherries, but then it kind of tastes alcohol-y as well. It's awesome, really awesome.
How did you come up with because I've had the blackcurrant one before recently.
Yeah, you had the Kenyan Kariru that we had a little while ago.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah.
But do you not just have a day of just tasting them all, figuring out what's what?
Yeah, I mean, every week we do tastings all the time. And yeah, when we're sourcing the coffee, we might taste 50, 60 different coffees before actually choosing on which ones to buy. So we're just always tasting different coffees, and yeah, we score coffees on a grading system, and then after we've graded them, the top percentage of them will decide which ones were our favorites, and then we'll just buy whichever ones we like the most.
Awesome. I've got another question there. How do you decaffeinate coffee?
So there are a few ways of doing it. We don't actually do it ourselves. So certain growers and certain companies will decaffeinate coffee for you. There's one way of doing it where you soak it in loads of different acids. It's not very nice. It really affects the flavor of the coffee, and then it kind of just tastes like coffee. It doesn't really taste of anything. There's this really amazing company called Swiss Water, and they have this really ingenious steeping process where they soak the coffee in water and they add this chemical in, which draws the caffeine out. It's like an anti-caffeine drug.
Right.
it's really weird to explain, but it grabs onto the electrons of the caffeine in the coffee and drags it out, and then they sort of steep the coffee in over and over in this solution until the caffeine's gone, and then what you end up with is coffee that tastes exactly how it did, minus the caffeine, which is amazing.
I've got flashbacks to being in the roastery, and when you said electrons there, that's when you lost me. And
Sorry,
it's the same look that I get when I try and start talking to people about programming or something. It's kind of like, just switch off.
Just turn into Java code, and everyone just goes.
Yeah, which is also ironically a type of coffee. That's all.
So coffee and grown in cherries. It is, yeah. Have you never seen a coffee plant? A tree? Coffee trees are amazing. They're like 6 foot tall. They've got like really big, long branches on them, and the cherries are like bright red. And you get like all these big clumps of bright red cherries on them, and the flowers are amazing. The flowers look like jasmine.
Right.
So they grow on these like beautiful white flowered plants, and then the flowers fall off, and these massive red cherries grown on them. So yeah, and then every cherry's hand-picked. There's 2 coffee beans in every cherry. It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah. I guess you never see that in
Yeah, like, it's crazy. Like, one coffee tree will maybe grow 2 kilos of coffee. That's it.
It's a hell of a lot of trees.
Yeah, and that's before it's roasted. It loses weight when it's roasted, so you only get like 1.5 kilos of coffee out of a tree, so that's usable.
Okay. I think we'll wrap it up there. If you can join me in thanking Matt. Thank you.